Building management called the police on him twice. Tenants complained about him daily. The HOA even installed a security camera to watch him. For months, they tried everything to make him disappear. Then the fire started on the 4th floor, and he was the only one running toward the building. Welcome to the human stories. Have you ever walked past someone and pretended they didn't exist? Today's story might change how you see that person sitting on the corner. Tell me in the comments. What city are you watching from? His name was Marcus Thompson, though nobody in the Riverside Gardens apartment complex knew that. To them, he was just the homeless guy, a daily reminder of everything they'd worked so hard to rise above. For 8 months, he'd occupied the same corner spot outside Building C, with his weathered Army surplus jacket and his cardboard sign. The sign read, "Homeless Veteran, please help. God bless." Sandra Phillips, the HOA president, had seen enough. "This is unacceptable," she announced during the monthly board meeting. "Our property values are suffering because of this situation." Board member Janet Liu nodded. "My daughter is afraid to walk to her car. She says he just sits there, staring." "He's not staring," said Tom Rodriguez, the only dissenting voice. "He's just existing. The man's a veteran." "Being a veteran doesn't give you the right to loiter on private property," Sandra replied coldly. The first solution came in the form of Officer Kevin Mills. Sandra had called with a complaint about aggressive panhandling. Officer Mills approached Marcus on a Tuesday morning. The veteran was reading a worn copy of The Things They Carried. "Sir, I need to ask you to move along. We've received complaints." Marcus looked up with tired eyes. "Am I breaking any laws?" "Officer? No, but..." Then respectfully, "This is a public sidewalk. I'm not bothering anyone. I'm just trying to survive." Something about Marcus's bearing spoke of military training. "What branch?" Mills asked quietly. 82nd Airborne. 3 tours in Afghanistan." Mills hesitated. His own brother had served with the 101st. Maybe just moved down the block for today? "Copy that, officer." Marcus gathered his possessions without complaint, but Sandra wasn't satisfied. 2 weeks later, she filed another complaint, this time claiming Marcus had glared aggressively at a young mother. The complaints kept coming. Marcus was supposedly intimidating children, disturbing the peace, and creating a health hazard. Each report required a police response, and each response found no evidence of wrongdoing. The final escalation came when the HOA voted to install a security camera aimed directly at Marcus's corner. 24-hour surveillance, Sandra announced. "Let's see how comfortable he is being watched." Marcus simply shifted 15 feet down the sidewalk, outside the camera's range, but still visible to residents who had grown to despise his presence. December brought snow and a small tent, Army. Surplus olive drab, set up with military precision. "It's an eyesore," complained Mrs. Chun. "My guests are embarrassed to visit." "He's probably not even a real veteran," added David Kumar. "Real veterans get help from the VA." The irony was lost on them. Marcus had sought VA help and waited 8 months for his first appointment. He'd been approved for $247 monthly assistance, contingent on maintaining an address he couldn't afford. Sandra hired a security guard to patrol the area during peak hours. Carl Washington, the retired police officer hired for the job, quickly realized his true purpose. "You want me to harass a homeless veteran?" Carl asked. "I want you to ensure our residents feel safe," Sandra replied. Carl recognized something familiar in Marcus's posture and bearing. He'd served 2 tours in Vietnam himself. Instead of harassment, Carl found himself sharing coffee and war stories when no residents were watching. The weather turned brutal in February. Temperatures dropped below freezing for 6 straight days. Marcus's small heater ran out of fuel, but he made no attempt to seek warmth in the lobby, Tom Rodriguez watched from his window as Marcus endured, wrapped in his sleeping bag, occasionally doing jumping jacks for circulation. On day 5, Tom brought down hot soup and a fresh propane canister. "You don't have to do this," Marcus said, hands shaking as he accepted the thermos. "Yeah, I do. I'm ashamed it took me this long." March brought new tactics. The city informed Marcus that his tent violated camping ordinances. He complied immediately. Returning to sleeping in the open, the HOA then convinced the city to install anti-homeless spikes along the concrete ledge where Marcus slept. When he returned from a VA appointment and saw the metal points, something flickered across his face. Not anger, but deep, tired sadness. Marcus moved to the ground, using his backpack as a pillow. The concrete was harder, but he adapted without complaint. The psychological warfare intensified. Someone began calling police daily with false reports. Marcus was dealing drugs, drinking in public, threatening residents. Each report found no evidence of wrongdoing. Officer Mills grew frustrated. "Mrs. Phillips, I've responded to 17 calls about this individual. Not one has resulted in any violation. We have actual crimes to investigate. Then maybe he'll finally get the message and move on." But Marcus wasn't moving. The pressure seemed to strengthen his resolve. He maintained his area with military precision and treated every interaction with quiet respect. "He's doing this to spite us," Sandra declared at the April HOA meeting. Tom Rodriguez had heard enough. What statement would that be? That veterans deserve dignity? That homelessness can happen to anyone? The community Sandra claimed to protect was tearing itself apart over one homeless veteran who'd never asked for anything but the right to exist. It was 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday when the smoke alarm in apartment 418 began wailing. Jessica Martinez woke to flames crawling up her living room wall. An electrical fire had started behind her entertainment center, spreading rapidly through the building's aged infrastructure. By the time Jessica grabbed her children and ran into the hallway, smoke was pouring everywhere. The building's old fire alarm system activated with a critical delay. First responders were 12 minutes away. Residents poured from their apartments in panic. Tom Rodriguez emerged and took charge, his military training kicking in. "Everyone, stay low. Move toward the far stairwell." But as he helped guide residents to safety, he realized something terrible. Elderly George Petersen on the 4th floor hadn't made it out. The smoke was too thick, the heat too intense. That's when Tom saw movement outside. Marcus Thompson was running toward the building, while everyone else fled, while emergency vehicles were en route, while residents stood watching their building. Ern, a homeless veteran, was sprinting directly into danger. Marcus hit the stairwell at full speed, his military training taking over. He'd done this before in Afghanistan, moving through smoke and debris, searching for survivors. He took the stairs 3 at a time. 4th floor. The heat hit him like a physical blow. "Mr. Petersen," Marcus shouted over the flames. "George, where are you?" A weak voice responded from apartment 406. Marcus found the 89-year-old veteran collapsed in his hallway, conscious but unable to move. Marcus got George into a fireman's carry and started toward the stairwell. The smoke was thicker now. Emergency. Lighting had failed. Step by step, floor by floor, Marcus carried George down those stairs. His lungs burned, his legs shook, but he never stopped moving. They emerged as the first fire truck arrived. Paramedics took George from Marcus's arms, pumping oxygen into his smoke-filled lungs. Marcus collapsed to his knees, coughing up black phlegm. His jacket was singed, his hands burned, his face streaked with soot. That's when the residents finally saw him clearly. Tom Rodriguez was first to reach Marcus, helping him sit against a fire truck. "Jesus, Marcus, you could have died in there." Marcus looked back at the building where firefighters were controlling the blaze. Is everyone out? Everyone's out, thanks to you. The crowd of residents formed a semicircle, but their expressions had changed. A man they'd harassed and tried to drive away had just risked his life to save their neighbor. Jessica Martinez approached with her children. You saved Mr. Petersen. Marcus struggled to his feet. Just did what anyone would do. No, said Sandra Phillips, her voice quiet and broken. That's not what anyone would do. That's what a hero does. Fire Chief Rodriguez approached Marcus. Son, I've been fighting fires for 23 years. What you did was the bravest thing I've ever seen from a civilian. I'm not a civilian, Chief. I'm a soldier. What unit? 82nd Airborne. Staff Sergeant. 3 tours, Afghanistan. The fire chief extended his hand. Thank you for your service. And thank you for what you did tonight. As dawn broke, residents faced a truth they'd avoided for 8 months. The man they'd seen as a problem had proven himself the best person. Among them, one by one, they approached Marcus. David Kumar pressed a business card into his burned hands. I own a construction company. We need supervisors. Military experience preferred. Mrs. Chun brought a first aid kit. I'm a retired nurse. Let me treat those burns. Tom Rodriguez looked around at his transformed neighbors. Marcus, you can't sleep on the ground anymore. My couch is yours until we figure out something better. George Petersen, released from the hospital, sought out Marcus that afternoon. Son, I owe you my life. You don't owe me anything, sir. I just did my job. Your job? You're homeless, and you still see protecting others as your job? Once a soldier, always a soldier. 6 months later, Marcus had an apartment in Building B. The HOA had waived all fees. David Kumar's company provided steady work. The VA, spurred by advocacy from his neighbors, expedited his benefits. Sandra Phillips started a Veterans Assistance Program. I learned that the person you ignore might be the one who saves your life. Marcus and Tom became close friends. Why? Didn't you leave after everything we put you through? Tom asked one day. Marcus considered the question. Because leaving would have been easy. And easy doesn't mean right. Sometimes Marcus walked past his old corner spot, remembering what it felt like to be invisible. That's why he always acknowledged. The new homeless veteran near the bus stop on 5th Street, sharing his phone number and David Kumar's business card. Everyone deserves a chance, he'd say. Everyone deserves to be seen. The residents learned that lesson in the orange glow of an apartment fire, where a homeless veteran they'd tried to drive away saved a neighbor's life. Sometimes it takes a fire to show us who we really are. If this story moved you, subscribe to The Human Stories for more narratives about our shared humanity. What city are you watching from? Have you ever misjudged someone? Tell us in the comments below.